In the world of rock climbing, where risk and reward are delicately balanced, climbers often speak of trust. Trust in the rock, trust in their gear, and most importantly, trust in their climbing partners. On June 13, 1999, that trust was tragically put to the ultimate test in Yosemite National Park, when a 22-year-old climber, Peter James Terbush, gave his life to save his climbing partner. This is the story of the hero of Yosemite, Peter Terbush, a young man whose courage and sacrifice forever etched his name into the annals of climbing history. From the moment Peter Terbush could walk, the great outdoors became his second home. Born and raised in Gunnison, Colorado, Peter was immersed in the rugged beauty of the Rockies, where towering peaks and sprawling forests defined the landscape. For the Terbush family, the outdoors wasn't just a place to visit, it was a way of life. Peter's grandfather had been a mountaineer, and his father followed in those footsteps, passing down a legacy of exploration and respect for nature. As a child, Peter was naturally curious. He would spend hours exploring the woods near his home, turning over rocks to find insects, tracing the patterns of rivers, and climbing trees to see the world from a higher perspective. It wasn't just about the adventure for Peter. It was about understanding the rhythms of the natural world and feeling a part of something much bigger than himself. By the time he was a teenager, Peter had become an experienced outdoorsman. Camping, hiking, and climbing weren't just hobbies. They were central to his identity. His weekends were spent trekking up trails with friends or scaling nearby rock faces with his father. He learned the art of climbing, not just as a sport, but as a discipline. Safety and preparation were paramount. His father instilled in him the importance of checking his gear, respecting the limits of his body, and understanding the terrain. Peter didn't just see climbing as a challenge, he saw it as a connection. To him, the rock wasn't an obstacle, but a partner. Every handhold and foothold was a conversation, a way to understand the ancient, unyielding force of nature. He loved the mental focus it required, the way it stripped away distractions and left him with only the present moment. When Peter began his studies at Western State College in Gunnison, his love for the outdoors only deepened. Majoring in geology, he found a way to merge his academic interests with his passion for nature. To Peter, rocks weren't just climbing surfaces. They were pieces of Earth's history, millions of years in the making. His classes gave him a deeper appreciation for the landscapes he explored. He would often talk about how understanding the geology of a mountain made climbing it even more rewarding. At Western State, Peter quickly became a leader among his peers in the outdoor community. He was the friend everyone trusted to plan trips because he thought of every detail: routes, gear, weather, and safety protocols. His reputation wasn't just about his skill, it was about his character. Peter was the kind of person who would slow his pace to help someone struggling on a hike or lend his gear to someone who had forgotten theirs. His climbing partners often said they felt a profound sense of security with Peter on the rope. "If Peter's belaying you," one friend said, "you know you're safe." Peter's respect for the natural world went beyond climbing. He had a way of noticing things that others might overlook: a bird's call, the way the light shifted through the trees, or the smell of the earth after a rainstorm. His friends often joked that he could disappear into the wilderness for days and come back happier than ever. Peter wasn't just passionate about experiencing nature, he was passionate about protecting it. He often participated in trail cleanups and advocated for leave-no-trace principles, ensuring that future generations could enjoy the same pristine landscapes he loved. For Peter, the outdoors was more than a hobby, it was a sanctuary. It was where he felt most alive, most connected to himself and the world around him. When life got stressful, he turned to the mountains to clear his mind. The rock doesn't judge you," he once told a friend. "It doesn't care about your worries or your plans, it just is. And when you're climbing, you get to be a part of that." Yosemite National Park held a special place in Peter's heart. As a child, he had seen photos of its iconic granite walls, El Capitan Half Dome, and Glacier Point, and dreamed of one day climbing there. For climbers, Yosemite was a mecca, a place where legends were made. Peter had spent years preparing for his first trip to the park, honing his skills on the cliffs of Colorado and studying guidebooks about Yosemite's roots. When the opportunity finally came to visit Yosemite in June 1999, Peter was ecstatic. He and his closest friends, Carrie Pyle and Joe Kerwin, planned the trip meticulously. For Peter, it wasn't just about the climbs. It was about the experience of being in a place he had admired for so long. He wanted to soak in every detail, the towering cliffs, the dense forests, the way the light danced off the granite in the early morning. As they drove into the park, Peter's excitement was palpable. He pointed out landmarks, recited facts about the geology of the area, and talked endlessly about the climbs they had planned. For Peter, this wasn't just a trip. It was the culmination of years of dreaming and preparation. One of the things that made Peter a standout climber was his deep commitment to the climber's code, a set of unwritten principles that emphasized trust, safety, and respect. For Peter, climbing was a partnership. He knew that when you're on the rock, your life is in someone else's hands, and theirs is in yours. That bond was sacred to him. He took his role as a belayer seriously, often saying it was the most important job in climbing. "Your partner has to know you'll catch them no matter what," he once said. "That's not negotiable." His friends trusted him implicitly, knowing he would never cut corners or take unnecessary risks. Peter Terbush wasn't just a climber. He was a teacher, a leader, and a source of inspiration to everyone who knew him. His love for the outdoors was infectious, and his respect for nature was a guiding principle in his life. Whether he was scaling a cliff, hiking a trail, or simply sitting by a campfire, Peter embodied what it meant to truly live in harmony with the natural world. Little did he know that his dedication to his friends and his unwavering commitment to the climber's code would one day make him a hero. Peter's passion for the outdoors wasn't just about personal fulfillment. It was about sharing that passion with others and leaving a legacy of courage, trust, and selflessness. The morning of June 13, 1999, dawned crisp and clear in Yosemite National Park. The sun rose over the iconic granite cliffs, casting long shadows across the valley floor. For Peter Terbush and his friends, Carrie Pyle and Joe Kerwin, it was the perfect day to climb. Their destination, Glacier Point Apron, a popular climbing area known for its mix of moderate and challenging routes. Among the options available, they decided on Apron Jam, a route that offered just the right balance of difficulty and reward for the group's skill level. Peter, ever the planner, had carefully checked their gear the night before. Harnesses, ropes, carabiners, chalk bags, everything was in perfect condition. For Peter, preparation wasn't just a habit, it was a philosophy. In the world of climbing, where a single mistake could mean disaster, he knew that attention to detail could be the difference between life and death. As the group approached the base of the climb, spirits were high. Peter, Carrie, and Joe had spent countless hours climbing together back in Colorado, building not only their skills, but an unbreakable bond of trust. Yosemite was a dream come true for all of them, and they were eager to test themselves against its legendary walls. Carrie volunteered to lead the climb, a role that required setting the protective gear in the rock and guiding the route upward. Peter, as the belayer, was responsible for managing the rope and ensuring Carrie's safety as he ascended. It was a role Peter took seriously. His unwavering focus on keeping his climbing partner safe was one of the reasons his friends admired him so much. Joe stayed nearby, watching and offering encouragement as Carrie made his way up the wall. The group laughed and joked as they worked, savoring the challenge and camaraderie that made climbing so rewarding. The sun was high in the sky, the air warm but not stifling. It was shaping up to be one of those perfect days in the wilderness. As the climb progressed, the trio fell into their usual rhythm. Carrie moved steadily upward, placing protective gear into cracks in the rock while Peter fed out the rope in precise measured lengths. Joe, waiting his turn to climb, took photos of the surrounding landscape, marveling at the sheer scale of Yosemite's granite cliffs. But as the minutes ticked by, an uneasy stillness began to settle over the area. The usual sounds of the wilderness, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves, seemed to fade. Peter glanced upward, scanning the cliff face above them. Something felt off, but there was no time to dwell on it. Carrie called down for more slack, and Peter refocused on the task at hand. Then it happened. Without warning, a deafening crack echoed through the valley. High above the climbers, a massive section of granite had broken loose from the cliff face. In an instant, the serene afternoon turned into chaos. Thousands of pounds of rock, some pieces as large as small cars, came hurtling down toward the climbers. The rockfall was catastrophic, an unstoppable force of nature. For those caught in its path, there was no time to react, no time to think. Yet in those few fleeting seconds, Peter Terbush made a choice that would define his legacy. As the rocks rained down, Peter's instincts took over. He tightened his grip on the belay rope, holding it steady to protect Carrie, who was still on the wall above him. To let go would have meant certain death for his climbing partner. Even as the first rock struck the ground around him, Peter did not release the rope. He stayed firm, his focus entirely on keeping Carrie safe. When the dust finally settled, the aftermath of the rockfall was devastating. Peter had been struck by falling debris and suffered fatal head injuries. He was killed instantly, but because of his actions, Carrie Pyle survived. Despite the chaos and the unimaginable danger, Peter had kept the belay rope secure, ensuring that his partner would not fall to his death. Joe Kerwin, who had been out of the direct path of the rockfall, rushed to help. The scene was surreal. A once peaceful climbing route, now littered with shattered granite, the air thick with dust and the echo of falling rock still reverberating through the valley. Peter's lifeless body lay amidst the debris, his hand still gripping the belay rope. For park officials and fellow climbers, Peter's actions were nothing short of heroic. He had stayed true to the climber's code: protect your partner at all costs. In those final moments, he made a decision that saved a life, even as it cost him his own. Peter's death sent shockwaves through the climbing community. Yosemite National Park is no stranger to tragedy. Its towering granite walls have claimed the lives of many climbers over the years. But Peter's story stood out, not just because of the catastrophic rockfall, but because of his selfless bravery. In the weeks that followed, Peter's family and friends grappled with their grief. They spoke of his unwavering love for climbing, his respect for the natural world, and his deep commitment to those he cared about. To them, Peter wasn't just a hero. He was a son, a friend, and a bright soul taken too soon. But the tragedy also raised questions. Glacier Point, where the rockfall occurred, had experienced similar incidents in the past. Some argued that the National Park Service had failed to adequately warn climbers of the dangers in the area. In the years after Peter's death, His family filed a $10 million wrongful death lawsuit against the National Park Service, alleging negligence. The case brought attention to the balance between preserving the wilderness experience and ensuring visitor safety, a delicate and often contentious issue. Peter Terbush's legacy lives on in the climbing community and beyond. At Western State College, where Peter had studied, a memorial was established in his honor, the Peter Terbush Memorial Outdoor Leadership Summit. This annual event trains collegiate outdoor leaders in climbing and mountaineering, emphasizing safety, preparedness, and respect for the wilderness. For those who knew Peter, the summit is a fitting tribute. It reflects his passion for the outdoors, his dedication to his craft, and his belief in the importance of supporting others in the face of challenges. The story of Peter Terbush is a poignant reminder of the risks inherent in climbing and the unbreakable bonds of trust that climbers place in one another. It's a story of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring spirit of a young man who gave everything to save a life. Peter's name may not be etched into the granite walls of Yosemite, but his legacy is carved into the hearts of those who climb them. Every belay rope that's held steady, every climber who reaches the summit safely, carries a piece of his story. In the shadow of Glacier Point, where the rockfall changed everything, Peter Terbush's spirit endures, a symbol of what it truly means to be a hero.